Welcome to Highlighted, a Life Church Midweek Podcast. Here we're on a journey to look for ways to make our sermons more practical in our everyday lives, and we want to inspire you to live out your faith every single day, not just on Sundays. In each episode, we highlight our sermons and our ministries to see how God is working in our church and through our community. And as always, I'm here with the greatest pastor in the world who preached the greatest sermon, second greatest sermon, third, I don't know, who preached a sermon.
Dang.
It was one of the sermons of all time.
One of the sermons of all time.
So,
I like it.
No, it was an awesome
Good.
word. And we got to look at a couple characters that we don't really ever, I think, pay attention to.
Yeah.
We're always like, oh, Miriam this, Pharaoh's daughter this, oh, Moses this. But we never look at the faithfulness of his parents to even go through with it at the time. And when all the other Israelite boys at the time were literally getting killed.
Yeah.
And instead of, just adhering to the society norm and going with the flow or going with whatever kept them safe, they were, no, we're going to trust God. And even if it means I'm going to put my baby in the river, I'm going to trust God. Even if it means I'm not even going to raise this kid, I'm going to trust God. So just looking at the faithfulness of them and knowing that it's someone like that. We know the story, right? We know little baby Moses in the basket, but we don't ever really think about his parents and what they kind of had to endure for all that to happen.
What a risk.
Yeah.
It was this incredible moment where we really get to see how faith impacts the future of not just Moses, but his parents, his sister. I mean, he got to know who he was because she gets to raise him for a little bit. She gets to be a part of his life when he's little, and then she has to hand him over to Pharaoh. And they recognized early on, Scripture says that they recognized that there was something special about this child, that God had a special plan for the child. And I kind of understand that and recognize that as our kids get older, we can see that, but it's harder to see it when they're little, when they're really little, and especially when you feel such an ownership of like this wonderful thing, right? And you're very protective of it, and like we do a lot for our children, and then to think at that age, like right after being born, 3 months after being born, okay, God's got a plan. And I'm going to have to risk my life. I'm going to have to risk his life. I'm going to have to risk the life of my entire family. Because if Pharaoh had found out, it wouldn't have just been mom and dad that died. He would have killed the whole family. All of them would have been.
And probably their neighbors, too, because they would have been like, you heard the baby crying at night, and you didn't tell me.
Right.
Like, you're just as his fault as they are.
Yeah.
And then that whole little community that they have going on is just in shambles because one person decided to go against the grain. But seeing how God used that faithfulness, and then, years and years later, the Israelites are still in captivity, and he's the one that brings them out. Even when he's making up every excuse, God, I can't do this. God, choose someone else. God, bring Aaron with me. He can talk. I can't talk. I can't do these things. And then to know that, like, thing through thing, complaint after complaint, even after they got out of there, he still faithfully led these people.
Right.
And although he didn't get to walk in to the promised land, he still got to lead generations there. And it was because he had a faithful yes. Right. But also, in turn, it's because his parents.
Yeah, he would have never had the opportunity otherwise. And I think that's important for us to remember as we're looking at this story, that sometimes we are somebody else's opportunity to have faith that risks. Because Moses did have a faith that risks, right? He steps up in the palace and he looks at Pharaoh and he's like, look, you're going to do this or else. Okay, which Pharaoh would not have been accustomed to someone giving him ultimatums, someone saying, hey, this is you're going to do this or this is going to happen. Because he was all powerful, right? If he wanted you to die, all he had to do was be like, take care of him, gone, right? And nobody would have even asked a question. Nobody would have thought twice about it. Yet, here's Moses who's able to step in and do this. And so I think Moses' faith and his risky faith, and we're going to talk about Moses very, very soon, in this series. I think his faith is a direct reflection of the risk that his parents took here and the faith that they had to say, okay, we are going to risk our lives because they're not only do we see something special, but this is our child, right? And it makes me wonder how many people around that we just don't know the story of, how many people around tried to hide their child for so long and then tried to do something different. I'm sure there are stories, or there were stories then, of people who, found creative ways to get around what was happening. But I think the thing that I love the most about this account is that if you really look at it, she did what she was told to do, right? She did put him in the river. She just put him in a basket, right? And I think about like my kids trying to get around like rules and stuff. I'm like, hey, I want you to be in bed by 11 o'clock. All right, I'm gonna be in bed by 11, but I don't have to go to sleep. He didn't say nothing about being asleep by 11. He just said be in bed. Now they know what I mean, but they're looking for that loophole, trying to find that way. She finds it and still yet does not hold so tightly onto him that she's not willing to lay him in God's hands. And I think this is where we struggle the most with faith that risks, is that we don't want to lay things in God's hands. We want to hold on to them. We want to say, God, I will give you everything, all of it. Here it is. And then when we go to set it down into the water, we keep our hands just at surface level, like we're touching the water, right? But the basket's not. And so like we're in that presence, but we're like, okay, I don't want to give this thing up. And we do that not just with people, we do that with stuff, right? When we think about how much energy, time, and effort we put into our homes and our cars and the things that we have, and that if God were to ask for those things, how hard it would be for us to give them over to Him. Especially if it's something that you've waited years and years for, or you've wanted for a long time, or you're intimately connected to in some way, shape, or form. And so faith that risks says, okay, nothing of mine belongs to me, including those people that I care the most about. And I'm willing to lay them into the presence of God and let Him do what He's going to do with them, even if it means I'm never going to get to see this thing again or get to experience this thing again. But the cool part about faith that risks is that we serve a faithful God who is always faithful, even if she hadn't have gotten to raise Moses and Moses hadn't got to be a part of that family. God is still faithful, right? He's alive. He's in Pharaoh's palace. Of all the places, the guy who wants to kill him is raising him, right? Which means he got an education like he would not have gotten. He got to experience things he would have never gotten to experience. Part of what made Moses ready to take the risks that he was taking and to do the things that he's going to do in his life is the fact that his mom and dad saw this and said, okay, we're gonna just lay him in the river. And I can't imagine that they did that and weren't like, God, please make sure that he gets where he needs to go.
Yeah, or even, like, I'm surprised she didn't lay him in the river, and as soon as he's floating, like, 5 feet from her, she's going to jump in and be like, never mind.
Yeah.
Like, I did it. I tried it, God, but I just can't.
Right.
I can't let go of this
isn't going
to
to work.
And it's not even that she still had her, like, hand holding the basket, but she let go, and she didn't ever change her mind.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's even harder.
Well, she let him go twice.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
Because not only did she let him go with the basket, I didn't think about this on Sunday, but not only did she let the basket go, but she then holds him again. She raises him for a while. And then when he's ready to be taken back into Pharaoh's home, she lets him. That's crazy.
Especially after, like, okay, I let you go once.
Right.
I let you, and you caught back to me.
Right.
I'm never letting it. It's like, not that I have kids, but if, like, a little kid does something, goes and touches the oven or something, and they're freaking out, like, they're never going to do that again, right? They learn, like, oh, this was this kind of experience. I'm not going to do that. And then as, like, you're in charge of them, you're responsible for them, you're going to do what's
right,
like, you can to keep them from doing that.
Yeah.
And in the same way, like, she lets go of this kid, and, like, there's got to be this crazy amount of just, like, kind of guilt almost. Like, God, like, I know you wanted me to be faithful, but, like, I feel like I'm just leaving him to die. Like, I'm just...
Right.
Like, I didn't kill him like I was supposed to, but still, he's a baby in a basket. It's not like a bird can come fly by and just sweep him away. Or what if he floats into Pharaoh's house?
Right.
And Pharaoh finds him.
Right.
Then then what happens? Or what if he gets caught in a waterfall and his basket flips over and there's so many like dangers to it. And I just imagine this overwhelming sense of fear.
Yeah.
Even though she's being faithful, right? Because it's scary, right?
Right.
Even though she's saying yes, yes, God, okay, I'm going to do what I can. I'm going to find this loophole. I'm going to do this thing. But also, there's got to be this thing inside of her just eating away at her.
Yeah.
And this constant kind of anxiety and pressure, just like, oh, what if this happened? What if blah, 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 blah. And to get him back after that.
Yeah.
And then in turn say, okay, like I have to go through this all over again after I got him back is just like such a crazy thought, because we do that in our lives, right? God asks us to be faithful with a little bit.
Yeah.
And then in the next season, he asks us to be faithful with a little bit more. And in the next season, he asks us to be faithful with a little bit more. And if we're constantly living in this fear of like, what if I just hold on to this thing?
Right.
And we never really release it to God, then we can't be faithful with a little bit more, and he can't give us a little bit more to be faithful with in the next one and the next one. And it's just this kind of cycle. And, I've been talking about this on this podcast. Also, pause. If you didn't catch Sunday's sermon, it's a little late. You can finish this episode, I guess, but you're missing a lot of context, a lot of cool stuff. And what's cool, maybe this is the first sermon in the series that you've heard, but all of these stories connect. And not just in the way that series normally connects and ideas build on each other, but literally like generationally, they connect. Historically, they connect. And if you want to know how they even got in Egypt, go listen to last week's sermon too.
Yeah.
And it's just incredible to see how God is faithful time and time and time and time again with his people, and how in the same way he was then, he's faithful with his people today.
Right.
And we're a part of that, and we get to be a part of his people today. But going through this series and talking about faith and having a faith that risks, right? I took a big risk a few months ago, and I said, I'm going to plant my own grass seed. And I've talked about it probably way too many times, but it really felt like a risk because, one thing is like, I've never done this before. Maybe I should wait for Marissa's dad to come in town and he can help me. He's manly. He's handy. He knows tools. He knows yard work. He knows everything, I feel like. And
yeah, he's probably planted some grass before.
He's probably planted like the best grass in the world, like golf course caliber, like greens. So all these thoughts are going in my head, and Marissa's kind of just like, oh, let's just try it. Let's go get some grass seed, and worst case scenario, we'll retry in the fall, and we'll plant some more. So a few months ago, I go to plant this grass seed, and I've been complaining about it every day. You'd think I was the Israelite people in the wilderness with the amount of complaining I've been doing. I have to water it, have to wake up early, I have to take little scissors and cut it inch by inch. No, I didn't ever do that. But it really felt like not a big risk, right? Because it's just grass. It's just waking up early and watering it. But like, I'm spending money on my water bill to throw water into the ground.
Right.
And it's like, God, can it rain every day? Can you send 40 days and 40 nights of rain, please?
It's your fault we've had so much rain.
I prayed for it.
Yeah.
And I just want to show you something. And then I'll put it on the screen for everyone to see. But I've been dealing with this. This was, where was this? Trying to get the timeline. This was in March. This was my front yard.
Yeah. I didn't realize it was that bad.
It was empty. It was the wilderness.
I was just at your house. It does not
It was
look
the
like
wilderness.
that anymore.
This was yesterday.
Yeah, come on. When you see this picture,
And when you see this picture, you're going to be like, wow, God is faithful.
Yeah.
God is faithful. Even when Paul took the little risk to wake up at 6 a.m. and water your grass.
Have you had any neighbors be like, dude, that's amazing?
No.
Oh, that's so
maybe I have, and maybe they've said it to Marissa,
Yeah.
or maybe they have said it and I just forgot, or I was just zoned out.
That's because that's drastic.
Yeah.
That's pretty.
So it's
that's crazy.
And what's cool is like it's not even perfect, like it's not even finished yet.
Right.
But just to know that like in a couple months of some routine and some struggles, like I wish it was easy for me to wake up at 6 every morning, water right at 6. Oh, it's 6 p.m. Like there was a point where every 12 hours I was watering this grass. And I literally told Marissa, like maybe even word for word, like this is not worth it. This is not growing. I don't know what we're going to do, but this is awful. This is the worst thing I've ever done. And to look back on it now and to know, like, I just had to be faithful with an hour of my day.
Right.
And it's silly because it's grass. And I think I used those exact words the last time I talked about grass. It's like, it's silly because it's just this little thing that doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything. If my yard was dirt, who cares? I don't.
Right.
I mean, I'm not trying to have the best grass in the world, but we had a big dirt patch and I got to fill it with grass. And to see how it went from this dry, rocky, desolate thing to now this lush green thing, and knowing that all it took was a little bit of time, a little bit of effort, and to know that God wants to do the same thing with our lives, right? When our lives are dry and rocky and desolate, He just wants a little bit of time.
Come on.
He wants a little bit of watering, a little bit of care. Not even a lot. He's not asking for 24 hours of my 24-hour day, but just a little bit of time here, a little bit of time here, and the consistency to do it over and over and over and over again. And He's going to take that dry, rocky, ugly piece of yard, and He's going to turn it into this lush green, like oasis. And it's just incredible to see that that's kind of what happened in the life of Moses. And I don't want to get too far into the life of Moses because we're going to talk about him soon. But knowing that he should have died right away. And then there's instances in his life that we get to where he should have died again.
Yeah.
Right? He goes and not the spoiler alert, he goes and he kills an Egyptian.
Yeah.
And he runs away.
Right.
Because he's scared for his life. And they're people are talking about it. They're like, did you see he killed that guy? He got mad at him. And, oh my goodness. And it's like, now it's the talk of the town. And then you're running away from this whole life that you know. And even though he was raised in Pharaoh's home, he's still scared.
Right.
So it's like, obviously it's a big deal. And obviously time after time, maybe you should, or even going before Pharaoh that first time. Hey, Pharaoh, you got to let my people, I think of like Prince of Egypt.
Yeah.
And he goes in and he's like, Pharaoh, you got to let me, Pharaoh could instantly be like, get rid of this guy. Who does this guy think he is?
Take him out.
And, but he lives, and, we go through one plague, and you got to think, maybe after the first 3, Pharaoh's had enough. Like, get rid of this guy. Maybe after the first 5, Pharaoh's had enough. Get rid of this guy. But to know that literally walking through the wilderness in his life, and although he didn't get to walk into the promise, he got to lead generation and generation and generation to come there.
Yeah.
And in the same way, his parents didn't get to walk into that promise.
Right.
But in a way, they also led generation after generation after generation there because of their faithfulness. So even if, your yes feels small, even if it doesn't feel like a big risk, even if it's okay, it's just a little bit of water. It's just a little bit of time. Knowing that when we have a faith that can say yes, even when it's hard, even when it feels like it's against the norm, knowing that God can bless it and use it, not just for my life, but for my children's life and their children's life and their children's life. And knowing that it's not a temporary thing, and it's not something that I get to hold on to and keep to myself, but it's something I get to share with others.
That's good. It reminds me that everything we do and every season we're in is a season of faith. We've been talking about being in a season of faith, and we're talking about it as if it's like just a right now thing. But the reality is that we are constantly in a season of faith. Now, whether that may be a faith for something, one thing versus another or whatever, but we're constantly in this idea that we're in a season of faith. And right now, I was talking to somebody after service, and they were telling me that, they started to come to church here during this series, and they thought it was like a 4-week series, and they thought that it just happened to start on the week that they came, and we were still going. I was like, no, this is like an 18-week series, and we've been doing it for a bunch of weeks now. It's going to go all the way through the end of August. And so they were like, oh my goodness, I got to go back and watch these other ones because I really feel like I'm in a season of faith. And so even for us as a church, we've seen this where this Sunday, I prayed with someone after service. This will be the third person or group of people who have come in the last, 6 months, and God has moved on into a different place or direction. Like they're not even in the area anymore, but who have said, "Man, I just love this church. I love what's happening. I love what's going on." And like on the one hand, I'm like, man, come on, God, what are we doing here? And I got really checked in my spirit when I said that on Sunday morning. I said that to myself when this person asked me to pray for him. I was like, come on, God, you're taking another one out of here. What's going on? And I was reminded that we're in a season of faith, and we're doing, we've been doing this house of prayer where we talk about being a home for calling and people walking in that and going and figuring that out and it's hard. And this sermon is so relatable to that because here we are. We have, his parents letting Moses float in his calling, literally, versus walking it because he's not old enough to walk yet. Yet they understand that even at that age he has that. And so, we're in this season of faith. I want you to understand that God has called you to something, right? God has called you to do something, to be something to someone, to whatever it may be. And as we're walking through these, the whole point of these messages and the whole point of this series is to say, okay, sometimes I need a faith that risks. Sometimes I need a faith that sees and hears and listens. Sometimes I need a faith that is, quite honestly, just willing to do whatever. Right, and we after Moses. So this week is Moses. This upcoming week, we've been hinting around to that. We haven't actually said it. We're going to get into some other characters further along in Scripture and further along in the Bible, and like one of them, it's so hard to find why in the world God would put him in the Faith Hall of Fame. It's really difficult in his story, and we're gonna I struggled to as I was studying it and thinking, okay, why would God? And then I thought, there's so many of us that same question could be asked. I know me, and I know that I don't always get it right. I know that most of the time I don't get it right. And so, would I be in a Faith Hall of Fame situation? Would, if it was being written right now, would the life that I'm living be the kind of life of faith that God would want to write about and tell people about?
Yeah, and I think that I should say yeah again because my voice cracked and that was funny. But yeah, I think one of the coolest thing about the whole Faith Hall of Fame that we're going through, and it's a long series. We started it the week after Easter.
Right.
For context, that was a long time ago now. That was April that we started this series. We're now in July, and we still have all of July to go and all of August to go.
Yeah.
And, I know who we're going to talk about coming up in this series, and you could go and read it in Hebrews too if you wanted to get a little sneak peek at what's next. Maybe we're going through this list of people. But
maybe it's in order.
Maybe. But what's really cool about all of these people is they all have some sort of flaw or something is wrong with them, or they're not perfect, right? None of them are Jesus. Right, and in the same way, we can look at their life and say, okay, they had some mess in their life, and God didn't just use them to bring this set of people out of this thing or whatever their story is. But not only was it this, but thousands of years later, they're getting written about, and they're like, hey, these guys had faith.
Yeah,
these are the real deal right here. And it's you think Moses murdered someone,
right?
And he also said no to God 1,000 times.
Yeah.
He made up excuses. He didn't want to do what God called him to. And that's just Moses, right? And we've talked about other people that also have a big sin in their life or a big thing that kind of put this abrupt stop to what they were doing. And we're going to talk about some people that have done even worse things than Moses.
Yeah.
And
come on.
But God still uses them. And not only does he use them then, he's using them now to tell a story of faith And in the same
good.
way, I don't think we should ever be too ashamed of ourselves or our lives and feel like, hey, God can't use me because I did this. God can't use me because I come from this. God can't use me because I'm not ready for it. And when we look back over the life of all of these people that are literally in the Faith Hall of Fame, right, who are attributed for their faith, and knowing that, like, they weren't perfect,
right,
they had some mess in their lives. So if God can use them, surely He can use me.
right,
And knowing that, like them, maybe it's not getting written down like it was then, right? Maybe we're not going to end up in a book someday, and someone's not going to be, oh, Pastor Joshua in the year 2025, he did this great thing, and now all these people, and they're going to read back and look back on it. But I can guarantee you, someone connected to you,
right,
connected to you, connected to me, whatever, whoever's listening to this, is going to write a story of faith.
Yeah.
Even if it's not written down. And their faith is going to tell a story to the next person who's going to then in turn write their own story of faith.
That's good.
For someone else who then in turn, and it's going to be like the Israelites, right? Moses led his people to the promised land, even though he didn't get to walk in it. And in the same way, all of us, not just us two, but everyone listening to this, watching this right now, we have the opportunity to walk in faith so that we can lead other people into God's faithfulness, even people that we're not even going to be connected to, even people that we're not going to know. And if you're sitting there at home and you're thinking, man, like, I would love to have a faith that risks, but I've just messed up too much. Man, I would love to have a faith that speaks, but I'm just too shy. I would love to this and that and all the things that we've talked about, and walking in a season of faith. And just know that there's not anything that you've ever done or that you'll ever do that can stop you from walking in faith and living a life with God. And man, I love this series so much, and we're only like halfway done.
I know.
So I'm excited to dig into Moses next week now that the cat's out of the bag. And I'm also excited for House of Prayer this week and next week and the week after that. So it's summer, right? And I said this last week. If you walk outside and you get a little like sunburn just from sticking your arm out the door, it's summer, right? And if you're listening to this and it's still summer, we're having House of Prayer every single Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. And we're also having all of our other midweek things. So we have Kids Alive, youth, we have nursery. So there's something for the whole family.
Right.
And you said this on Sunday. We say this all the time, but House of Prayer isn't just for now. Right? House of Prayer is like our season of faith.
Yeah.
Right? That it's not just about today and now, but it's about the future of Life Church. And it's incredible how God moves at these nights. And last week was really special. If you weren't here last week, you missed out, and we don't even have it like recorded or anything, because
craziness.
Our craziness went down last week, and the power went out just on the church side of the building. So we had to pivot like 40 minutes before service.
It was crazy.
And we went and we moved into the gym, and we had a couple missionaries with us that are not necessarily doing missions in the traditional way that we think of it, but they're translating a Bible and creating a language that doesn't have a written form. And it's just this incredible thing. And knowing that like God is using them to bring His word to people that have never had it before.
Right. In one of the most creative ways that you can possibly think of. When we say translating the Bible, and you mentioned this, but just such an incredible thing, because there's no written language. They're having to take a spoken language, develop it into a written language, and then take that written language and use it to translate Scripture. That's insane. Yet here's God creatively working through them. Talk about a risk. Right? That is your entire life's work right there. You're not doing anything else in your entire life than that one thing. Like if God has you and keeps you doing this, that's what you're doing for your entire life. And that's your whole calling and your whole ministry. So incredible. If you missed it, you really missed out.
And all that to say, like, I know you're thinking, like, that doesn't sound like prayer. Like, what are...
Oh, yeah, it
was.
But,
we had a time, even though we were in the gym, right? And all that to say, anything can happen at these nights. And they're all different. They're all special. And if you've never been to one, I'm begging you, I'm urging you, I'm pleading with, I'm on my knees, I'm kissing the floor in front of you. But no, there are awesome nights, and you really need to come check them out and see what God is doing through these nights of worship and prayer. And that is happening tonight at 6:30. If you're watching this when this episode comes out, but if you're not, then come out next Wednesday or the next Wednesday after that. And even after, I know what you're thinking. Oh, I'm watching this, and now it's December. Like, I missed it. It's not summer anymore. Well, the first Wednesday of every month, we still have House of Prayer. And we've been doing it for like 2 years now, which is incredible. And just seeing how God has promised that if we make ourselves a house of prayer, he'll make us a home for blessing, calling, miracles, growth. I did them out of order, so now I'm backwards. Salvation. Thank you. Yeah, the first one. There we go.
You got to do them in order.
Yeah, forget. I know. Yeah. And God is keeping his promise even now, even just after 2 years of being faithful with these nights of prayer and worship, and seeing how he is making us a home for all of these things, and hearing testimony after testimony and story after story, and knowing, wow, like God is on the move in Roanoke, in our church, in our city, and through us, not just us,
right,
but through all of us. So, man, come to House of Prayer. Stay connected with us because there's a lot going on this summer, even though it's the summer, even though people are in and out and it's busy and it's summer vacation. Maybe you have a vacation planned, but stay connected. Come to House of Prayer. And as always, we love you and we can't wait to see you again soon.